When Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi journeyed to Kamino as part of his investigations regarding the bounty hunter Jango Fett, Obi-Wan not only uncovered the clone army that was being created for use by the Republic, but also that it was the former Jedi Master and member of the High Council Sifo-Dyas who commissioned the Kaminoans to create the clone army without the knowledge or authority of the Senate or Jedi Order. Of course, Sifo-Dyas was the individual who originally requested the creation of the clone army on Kamino, having foreseen the coming of a full-scale, galaxy-wide conflict. However, what Obi-Wan was not able to uncover during these initial investigations was that the death of Sifo-Dyas 10 years before the start of the Clone Wars was orchestrated by Count Dooku, and resulted in the Sith secretly assuming control of the clone army project that they would use to carry out Order 66 and the annihilation of the Jedi Order. But even before Darth Sidious instructed the clone troopers to execute Order 66, the Jedi Order were able to uncover a few further important pieces of the puzzle regarding the death of Sifo-Dyas and the creation of the clone army on Kamino. Due to these new discoveries, the Order started a full investigation into the death of Sifo-Dyas, which ultimately resulted in the Jedi discovering that from the start, the Sith were behind and guided the creation of the clone army. In this video expose, I will describe the investigations that were performed by the Jedi Order regarding the circumstances of Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas' death, and explain how these investigations ultimately allowed the Jedi to discover, before Order 66 was executed, that the Sith were behind the creation of the clone army. The catalyst for the Jedi's discovery, prior to Order 66, that the Sith created the clone army, was their receiving a distress signal at the Jedi Temple from a ship that the Order had long thought to have been lost. Upon receiving the distress signal, the Order dispatched Jedi Master Plo Koon and a group of clone troopers to locate and examine the ship. When they were able to find the ship, it was clear that it crashed years earlier, and Plo Koon was able to discover a lightsaber on board. After conferring with the Jedi High Council, it was confirmed that both the ship and lightsaber had belonged to Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, who once sat upon the council but was removed due to his views that a galaxy-wide conflict was coming and required the Republic to raise an army, being deemed too extreme. When Obi-Wan recounted how the Kaminoans informed him that it was Sifo-Dyas who ordered the creation of the clone army, Yoda was hopeful that these new discoveries could provide the Order with an explanation of how it was that Sifo-Dyas ultimately ordered the clone army and how it was kept secret from the Council. Having initiated an investigation into the death of Sifo-Dyas, Jocasta Nu informed Yoda that the records of the Jedi officially stated that he died on the planet of Felucia, after he was sent to the planet to negotiate peace talks between warring Felucian tribes. When Yoda inquired into the circumstances following his death, including what became of Sifo-Dyas' body, Jocasta was unable to provide any answers, as the remainder of the file was sealed under the authority of the Office of the Supreme Chancellor. After sending Obi-Wan and Anakin to Felucia to look for answers, Yoda personally visited Chancellor Palpatine to uncover why the Chancellor's office may be involved. However, Palpatine was not able to assist Yoda on Sifo-Dyas' death, which occurred more than 10 years prior, as it happened while he was still a senator and when Finis Valorum was Chancellor of the Republic. Therefore, Palpatine suggested that Yoda speak to Valorum for answers regarding Sifo-Dyas' death. As Yoda left the Chancellor's office and a clearly agitated Palpatine, he not only learned from Obi-Wan and Anakin that the Felucians cremated Sifo-Dyas' body after his death, but also that Sifo-Dyas was not alone, and there was a second Jedi with him. When Yoda then visited the former Chancellor Valorum to question him on Sifo-Dyas' death, he told Yoda that he sent Sifo-Dyas on a secret mission to the moon of Obadiah, outside of the knowledge of the Jedi High Council. The mission called for Sifo-Dyas to stabilize a situation wherein a powerful group within the Spice Cartel, named the Pike Syndicate, was vastly increasing its criminal activities. However, Valorum remembered that Sifo-Dyas' mission to Obadiah had to be postponed, as the Jedi High Council assigned him to another mission that required Sifo-Dyas' presence on Felucia. Importantly, Valorum also told Yoda that there was no second Jedi assigned to the mission, only Valorum's personal aide Silman. Having learned from Yoda that the Jedi were investigating the death of Sifo-Dyas, Darth Sidious contacted Count Dooku and questioned his apprentice as to why it might be that the Jedi were interested in Sifo-Dyas, as it was Dooku who was tasked with eliminating him. After Dooku told his master that he was unaware of why or what the Jedi were looking into, Sidious ordered Dooku to dispose of any loose ends that may exist, but not before force-choking his apprentice and warning him about the ultimate price he would pay for his continued failure. Once Yoda learned that Sifo-Dyas and Silman's secret mission required them to journey to Obadiah, he sent Obi-Wan and Anakin there to discuss the circumstances with the Pikes. On Obadiah, although the leader of the Pikes initially tried to feign ignorance regarding the situation of Sifo-Dyas' crashed ship, the Jedi were able to discover that the Pike leader was wearing the crest of the Chancellor that would have been worn by Silman, and the Pike leader was forced to admit that Silman was still being held prisoner on Obadiah. Importantly for the purposes of this video, the leader of the Pikes explained to Obi-Wan and Anakin that in wanting to increase their position over the other crime families, the Pikes entered into a number of alliances, one of which was with a man named Tyrannus, who Obi-Wan and Anakin did not know the identity of. The Pike leader explained that Tyrannus wanted Sifo-Dyas dead, and therefore paid the Pike Syndicate to shoot down his ship. After the Pikes made good on their deal, they handed Sifo-Dyas' body over to Tyrannus, but took Silman, who was still alive, as insurance. When the leader of the Pikes brought Obi-Wan and Anakin to Silman's cell, it was clear that Silman had lost his mind over the course of his 10-year imprisonment. However, he was able to confirm that although the Pikes were not to be trusted, the Pikes were not responsible for the death of Sifo-Dyas. Rather, he stated that there was another man responsible, one who wanted to assume the identity of Sifo-Dyas. Clearly referring to Count Dooku, Silman was unable to confirm that the man responsible for the death of Sifo-Dyas was Tyrannus, as Dooku, who had by that time landed on Obadiah himself and similarly made his way down to Silman's cell, force-choked Silman and killed him. Obi-Wan and Anakin then engaged Dooku in lightsaber combat. However, when the Pikes emerged and the leader of the Pikes referred to Dooku as Tyrannus when telling him that he had no business remaining with the Pikes, Obi-Wan and Anakin learned that Dooku was in fact the one known as Tyrannus, and therefore was the one behind the death of Sifo-Dyas. Although Dooku was able to escape, after Obi-Wan and Anakin reported what happened to the Jedi High Council, the Jedi were able to logically deduce and infer that from the beginning, the Sith guided and were behind the creation of the clone army on Kamino. The Council learned and clearly understood that it was their enemies that created the clone troopers for them to use in the Clone Wars, as Yoda told the Council that the circumstances that they presently found themselves in were set up by the Dark Lord of the Sith, and the Jedi were forced to go along with them. Because the Jedi feared that public confidence in the war, the Galactic Republic, and the Jedi would evaporate and result in mass chaos if it was discovered that the Separatists and Sith were behind the production of the clone army, the Jedi High Council reluctantly agreed to cover up the discovery and tell no one of what they had uncovered. Taking solace in the fact that the clone troopers had fought valiantly and bravely beside the Jedi during the war, the Jedi devoted themselves to winning the war quickly so as to prevent the plans of the Sith from being completed. So there we have it, how the Jedi discovered that the Sith created the clone army on Kamino. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for I guess no one had a better idea.